Hey guys, welcome back to Andy's Dinosaur Reviews, and today we finally have the opportunity to take a look at the Jurassic World Mattel Tarbosaurus. I'm not gonna lie to you guys, I was starting to think I would never get this figure. For some reason my Target just absolutely refused to stock it for a while there. However, I just got lucky, super lucky, stumbled upon one lone Tarbosaurus on the shelf, and I now have it here to take a look at with you guys. And I do apologize for taking so long to get a hold of this figure to review for you all, as I know many people have already received theirs and purchased theirs quite a while ago. I've had quite a few people messaging me telling me that they had these Tarbosaurus figures at their Target in full force. However, mine, I only had one. I had seen one, but it was broken, so I didn't pick it up, because why would I buy a broken dinosaur figure? However, I just now stumbled upon this one, which seems to work perfectly, and I am beyond excited to finally have this now to review, but also to add to my collection. So looking at the Tarbosaurus straight away in the packaging, it looks incredibly nice. The packaging itself is the typical Primal Attack packaging with that beautiful backdrop back there. And then Tarbosaurus down here in the center with Owen and Blue giving us their awkward look. And then a quick shot of the action feature down here in the corner. And then if we turn it around and take a look at the back, again, some images here on the back kind of showing what we can do as far as the action feature goes with our Tarbosaurus, and then a shot down here of the Tarbosaurus and the Sarcosuchus, which are the only two massive biters out currently. Hopefully more will come sometime in the very near future, but I've waited so long to get a hold of this figure, I am too excited to take a look at it. So let's break it out of the box right now. So here is our Tarbosaurus with quite the wonderful battle that I just had with the box to get it out, and specifically those stupid little rubber bands that they include to hold the dinosaur in. The rear leg just absolutely refused to come out. That stupid rubber band would not break because I'm an idiot, and I always of course have to just pull it to snap them off, and I don't bother getting scissors or any type of a sharper utensil to cut them. So yeah, it was quite the battle to get this guy out, but now that I have it out, I am super psyched to see it because it is honestly an absolutely fantastic figure. This is one of the newer Primal Attack figures I think I was most excited about because it's very cool to get a Tarbosaurus. We don't get them very often from anyone at all, so to have one here from Mattel, which is something that I've been saying a lot lately because Mattel has been really pumping out the very cool and sometimes very obscure species. But to have a Tarbosaurus from Mattel introduced to the Jurassic World toy line really is extremely exciting to me. So let's go ahead, get a closer look at this right now. So starting up here at the head sculpt, you can see the head sculpt, as usual when it comes to a Mattel figure, is absolutely jam-packed with really nice detailing all over the place. Beautiful scaling all over the head sculpt of the dinosaur, especially this lower jaw. Look at how incredible that scaling is. I would absolutely love to repaint one of these because I really feel like with this much detail, it would kind of just paint itself. It's that nice. You can see that the coloration primarily up here on the head sculpt is just this grayish coloration, but you can see a few areas that kind of have like this darker gray creeping in, like around the eye and in the eyebrow area. And then the lower jaw is just a reddish coloration, which this red is fun. It's cool to see on the figure, but I feel like it's just a little bit too maybe bright of a red. It doesn't really take away from the figure, and I think that the red throat area and the lower jaw does give it a very cool appearance. But I just feel like maybe the red used was just a little too bright. But at the same time, again, that's just a very minor gripe. The detailing of the face, oh wow, it is just ridiculous. Beautiful nostrils sculpted out up there. The scaling all over the face is just incredible. The inside of the mouth has a very nice textured tongue with a fantastic gloss coat in there. Really nice skin flap here on the inside of the mouth. And again, the detailing of that as well is just off the charts. You've got some really nicely painted teeth, which are showing up extremely bright right now on the camera. For the most part, they don't appear to have any sloppiness, maybe just a tiny bit right here, but they do look really good again, and the tongue is just fantastic. Look at that really nice textured tongue inside the mouth of this Tarbosaurus. Ridiculous detail on just the tongue of this figure. Both eyes appear to be painted really quite nicely. A reddish eye with a black pupil or a dark gray pupil. Moving back into the neck, you can see that the detailing of the neck looks really nice, and it has that very nice lighter gray with this darker gray that kind of creeps down and litters down onto the dinosaur. And you also have these very flashy looking ridges that run along the spinal column, which help to give this dinosaur an extremely striking look for sure. You can also see that down here in the throat we have that nice reddish coloration, which is an ever so slightly different tone of color from what you see in the lower jaw. Again, similar to what we see on a lot of Mattel figures, but I think that just has a lot to do with the material used, as they are two different types of materials, so it kind of lays a little differently on each. But I think the paintwork on this does look really, really nice, and the fact that they've run that kind of darker gray all the way down the tail, almost to the end of the tail, really takes the figure up quite a few notches as far as just how beautiful it looks overall. I really wish Mattel would do that all the time when it comes to their figures and the paintwork that is included. You can again see the skin texture looks great as we lead down the body. You've got those very nice, very muscular arms right here. You've got the beautifully sculpted out hands. I really do wish they, of course, would put nail paint on their figures, but they just for some reason do not, and I don't understand why. The skin texture continues to look just absolutely awesome as we lead down the body. I feel like a nice dark wash would bring all of these cracks and crevices out so well. Again, another reason why I would really like to repaint one of these if I could ever get a hold of another one. You've got some really nice skin folds and everything down here in the lower part of the stomach, and one thing that I do love about Mattel figures is you kind of see the skin here a little bit, and it looks like it's bunching up almost because of this leg being pushed forward, but then when you pull the leg back, now it looks like the skin is stretching, so it's almost like the body can transform itself depending on where the leg is to really show movement throughout the sculpt, and that's one thing I've kind of noticed continuously when it comes to these Mattel figures, so it's a really cool, almost like a little hidden Easter egg within the figures themselves. The dark gray continues to litter all over the body, and it really does look very nice. It's very nicely applied as well, very naturally applied. You can move back here into the leg area, the hip area. You can see the hip bone protruding from the skin just a little bit there. Moving down into the thigh, you've got that really nicely defined thigh muscle. You've also got the kneecap present here, lots of beautiful creasing here in the joint of the knee, an extremely large and very muscular calf. As we move down into the foot sculpt is beautiful. Very, very nicely done. Really nice scoot-like appearance down the toes, and the skin texture within the toes also looks extremely well done. Beautifully sculpted out nails. No paint once again on the nails, but they do still look really nice. Even without paint, they would just look much better with paint. And then we move out into the tail, and you can see that the tail looks really good, and that dark gray runs down the tail till we get to right about here, and then it kind of disappears, and then the tail is primarily just that lighter gray, which still looks really cool and also kind of gives it a little bit of variation as far as the paintwork goes. But I really do love that they actually did include the dark paint down here onto the tail, at least most of the way. Now, you're not going to really see too much going on this side as opposed to the previous side, just because for the most part the Mattel figures look like they're kind of neutral. They don't really have much difference going on because they're not really going to show things happening in one side of the sculpt that aren't happening on the other as far as skin movement or anything goes, because they're honestly, again, in a neutral position to play with. So you don't see too much difference or anything as far as the detailing on this side that we didn't already see on the previous side, but it still looks great on both sides. And again, just like I had stated over there, it kind of looks like the skin is pulling now and stretching off of the stomach a little bit because this leg is back. But if we move it up now, it kind of looks like the skin is bunched up. So really cool the way that they do that. Beautiful foot sculpt on this side as well. Lots and lots of detail. Honestly, incredible amounts of detail are included throughout the sculpt of this figure. As we move back into the tail, again, it looks really, really good, and I do love these ridges that run along the spinal column, and even within the ridges, you can see like cracks and stuff, so very nice detailing throughout even the ridges that run along the spinal column. The underside of the dinosaur is also really, really nicely sculpted. Beautiful work everywhere. You're never going to find laziness when it comes to the detailing and very minute details put into a Mattel figure. They're just off the charts as far as the sculpt work goes. There is the Jurassic Facts app code if you would like to add this to your collection, but otherwise let's go ahead and check out the articulation and action features of this incredible Tarbosaurus. So as far as articulation goes, of course, we've got the lower jaw, which I really wish that the jaw would always be closed, and then when you push the button then the mouth would open, but it's not the case. It's similar to the older they're roarivores, but you can see that the jaw does articulate, as does the neck, because that is also part of the action feature. I really hope they re-release the Tarbosaurus at some point, maybe with a different paint scheme, but without this action feature, and maybe having like a swivel neck similar to what we see on a lot of the battle damage figures, where you can actually pose it in different positions. I would really love that. You've also got articulation in the arms, so forward and back, and then, if I don't break them, out away from the body. Everything's really stiff for the most part because I haven't moved it around. As you saw, I just got it out of the package. Then you've got the hip joint there. You've also got an ankle articulation. The legs do they? Yes, they do move away from the body just a little bit, but not too much. And then you've of course got the articulation of the tail, and that is because the tail operates the action feature. You've also got a button here. The button snaps the jaws, and then the tail will then cause the dinosaur to move all over the place, turn his head, and snap in whatever area or direction you would like him to snap. So it's a pretty cool action feature, I will say that. Definitely really nicely done. The overall motion works really smoothly. It definitely is a very nicely done action feature. As far as a size goes, from the head to the tail, you are looking at about 14 inches in length, or about 36 centimeters, so it really is quite large. And being one of the massive biter figures, it is exactly as they say, a massive figure, and about 6.5 inches, or around 16.5 centimeters for height. As far as a size comparison goes, there is Mr. Papo T-Rex, Robert Muldoon in the Attack Pack Colovosaurus next to our very large Massive Biters Tarbosaurus, and you can definitely get a good idea of the fact that this figure is quite large in comparison to these figures, especially next to the Papo Rex, which is a pretty darn big figure in its own right, and it really does look significantly larger than the Papo Rex, so definitely has some really good size to it, that is for sure. So this Mattel Massive Biters Primal Attack Jurassic World Tarbosaurus is beautiful. I really like the sculpt on it. The sculpt is phenomenal. As far as the fine detailing goes, it really is just absolutely loaded with detail and beautiful skin texture, and lots of like creases in the skin and everything, where, like I said earlier, you could include a dark wash and it would bring that detail out so incredibly well. The head sculpt alone has so much beautiful sculpt and so much beautiful scaling throughout. It really is quite the beauty of a head sculpt to look at. If you really take it in, get up nice and close, and just really study how beautiful the sculpt and detail is, how much work goes into these Mattel figures, it's honestly breathtaking. The foot sculpt is also another one of my favorite areas of this figure, because it really has a fantastic sculpt in that area as well. Of course, the feet are a little bit larger than they would be if this were a real dinosaur, but it's just kind of for standing purposes so it doesn't fall, and it does help to balance out, so I'm okay with that. The tongue also has an incredibly nice sculpt with really beautiful textured appearance there on the tongue, and an incredible gloss coat on both the tongue, skin flap, and the eyes of the figure, helping to give it a really nice, very realistic appearance. The coloration of the Tarbosaurus is also really quite nice, definitely a very appealing color scheme they've gone with, and the paint application of it all looks very natural. It doesn't look like paint on a figure or anything, it does look like body color as far as I'm concerned. However, the red of the lower jaw is a little bit too bright for me, although I still don't think it looks bad, and it's probably as good as it could possibly look in toy form. I think the overall paint application, if you go with that style of paint apps, could look really cool if done in a very realistic fashion. There are a few downsides to most of the Mattel figures that I will say, and it's the fact that we miss out on paint on the nails, and I've been saying this since the initial figure of the first Jurassic World line from Mattel. It's just something they don't do. I don't know why. Sometimes they do, and honestly I would have expected it here on the Massive Biters figures, because a lot of the time with the larger figures they do include nail paint, but they did not do that here on this Tarbosaurus, and I don't know why. I also would like for them to kind of incorporate more color on the figure as far as like the underside goes, because they kind of just stop that red paint in the throat, and then there's nothing else that's really going on the underside as far as paint or anything. There's no like lighter colorations or different tones of color. There's just nothing. So we really have 3 different colorations included: a dark gray, a lighter gray, and a red throat and lower jaw. It does look really good for what it is, but I feel like it could look better if they would use more paint, like I had stated, on the nails, and then maybe on the underside of their figures. But regardless, it is still an absolutely fantastic Mattel figure. I really think it is a beautiful addition to the Jurassic World line. So if you would like to pick one up, your best bet is probably to head to Target, and hopefully your Target will have one in stock. From what I hear, most people's Targets do have them. It's just that mine hates me, so it just decides never to stock anything I really want. But regardless, again, a fantastic figure. Definitely pick it up if you can, in fact, locate one. And also make sure you like, comment, and subscribe, and I will see you in the next review. Thanks for watching.